That was the moment. That one stupid question from the junior HR girl holding the stack of congratulatory cards like she was dealing poker chips at a funeral. She looked at me, then at Martin, then back down at the second red envelope with gold lettering addressed to our new director. Mine had been sitting on my desk since 9:02 a.m. I hadn't opened it. I thought it was just a formality, some HR fluff before the party. But when I heard her name, Sophie's name in the same sentence as director, I felt something cold slither down my spine. Not fear, precision. Like when a surgeon makes the first cut. 3 hours earlier, I was in Martin's office, going over my quarterly strategy deck. 42 slides, color-coded, projections modeled across 5 fiscal scenarios. He nodded the whole time like a bobblehead with a sinus infection. "Outstanding work, Alexandra," he said. "Be ready for champagne tonight." So yeah, I was ready. What I wasn't ready for was Sophie stepping onto the little makeshift stage in the break room, Martin placing his hand on her shoulder like a proud dad who hadn't once reviewed her weekly reports, and then announcing she was now officially our director of strategy. I didn't move, didn't blink. My hand was still half raised from pouring a glass of champagne. I watched Sophie do her "I'm so humbled" routine, blinking too much, that fake smile twitching like it was rented. The room clapped. Some clapped too hard, people who owed me favors, people I'd trained. Then Martin said it. "She just contributes more than you." Like he was handing her a coffee mug, not my title, my work, my 4 years of weekends, skipped holidays, PowerPoints during my mom's chemo sessions. I toasted them, looked Martin dead in the eyes, smiled wider than I ever had, because none of them, not Sophie, not Martin, not the interns or the bootlickers or the half-drunk CFO, none of them knew what I'd slipped into Monday's board agenda behind the NDA reports. A single file, titled April Shadows, a confidential audit of departmental conduct. And buried on page 9, a signature, Martin's, approving Sophie's contract 3 weeks before the job was even posted. Let's just say she'd been contributing long before she got her badge. The first time I suspected Sophie wasn't just ambitious was when I caught her in the executive break room reheating soup in Martin's monogrammed mug. It wasn't just the mug. It was the way she stirred it, like she owned the place, like she'd already been here, and maybe she had. I remember asking her casually, "Did you borrow that from his desk?" She didn't even look up. "Oh, he gave it to me." Said it like he'd handed her his soul. Later that week, Martin started quoting her in meetings. Her. The woman who thought EBITDA was an herbal tea. Sophie raised an interesting point. He'd say, stealing my exact phrasing from our one-on-one 2 days earlier. But suddenly, her voice mattered more than my results. Like I was the warm-up act and she was the headliner, just with less brain and more initiative. Let's call it. I dug. Started checking meeting invites, timestamps, emails. Found a string of off-the-calendar sessions in Martin's private Outlook folder labeled Creative Syncs. The first one, booked 48 hours after her 3rd day. The second, same day as our canceled budget review. His excuse? Family emergency. Sure, a very flexible family emergency that required 3 hours and a locked door. But I wasn't just going to walk into HR with a bunch of spicy Outlook receipts like some jealous ex. No, I wanted the whole picture. I wanted the rot from the roots. So I waited. I played the part, loyal, blindsided Alexandra, smiled at Martin's jokes, let Sophie co-lead my campaigns without so much as a sigh. Meanwhile, I started building a digital folder I named Chimera. Inside, screenshots, Slack logs, server access timestamps, even a blurred security still from the 17th floor, the one hallway without official cameras. Let's just say Janine from building maintenance knows things. And Janine loves gift cards. Then came the kicker. I found an audio file. It wasn't labeled, just dumped in a backup cache on the shared drive, probably forgotten, probably accidental. But when I played it through noise reduction, Martin's voice. Relax, you'll get the title. Just keep doing what you're doing. Sophie's voice. Should I leave the blazer on this time? I saved it, triple-backed it up. And I smiled, because Monday's board meeting? I wasn't just showing up with a strategy deck. I was bringing Judgment Day. Friday night, 11:47 p.m. I sat in my apartment, lights off, monitor glowing like the last candle at a funeral. Chimera was open on screen, my digital Trojan horse, built not just to burn bridges, but to collapse the damn highway. Every file was labeled like a nail in a coffin. /chat_log/private. Sophie inviting Martin to brainstorm at her loft on a Sunday. /approval/contract_timestamp. Martin greenlighting her promotion before HR even drafted the requisition. /audio/elevator_17_rod@wave. Martin whispering lock the door, right before the camera outside blinked off for 10 minutes. That one's still my favorite. But the cherry on top, the twist that would turn heads and stomachs, the corporate card report. Sophie had a company Amex. Not unusual. What was unusual? A $2,197 charge at Le Sanctuaire, a private spa that doesn't advertise, doesn't tweet, and doesn't even have a Yelp page. Just a velvet rope door in Midtown and a sign that says by invitation only. Date of transaction. Same night as our missed product deadline. Her expense description. Client wellness sink. Client wellness, my ass. Now here's where it gets fun. See, I didn't just collect receipts. I planted some. And I don't feel bad about it because when they decided to ghostwrite my demotion behind my back, they opened the door. I just walked through, holding matches. Earlier that week, I'd accidentally forwarded Sophie a confidential memo. One that didn't exist until I wrote it myself. Subject: Reorg Phase 2 CFO Transition Strategy. Buried halfway through was a fake line. Potential CFO successor. Sophie Ellis, on Martin's recommendation. I watched her open it. Twice. Then she printed it. 3 hours later, Martin started treating me like a ghost with bad breath. Sophie? She was suddenly walking on air. I knew she'd shown him, which is exactly what I wanted. Because on Monday, when the board opens the security envelope I anonymously submitted to legal, they won't just find infidelity, nepotism, and corporate fraud. They'll find a forged plan that Sophie herself leaked, a plan that suggests she was trying to overthrow the CFO. And Martin? He signed off on it. With a timestamp. Thanks to a little Outlook rule I'd installed when I had access to his machine last quarter to fix a sync issue. So yeah, let them drink champagne. Let them toast. I'll be waiting in the boardroom with a smile and a black suit. Not to get promoted. To bury them both. Monday, 8:01 a.m. sharp. I walked into the boardroom like it was a courtroom, and I was both the prosecutor and the executioner. Navy suit, fresh blowout. Zero smile. The kind of vibe that makes assistants stop mid-sentence and double-check calendar invites. The board was already seated, 7 of them, all in their 60s, all with jaws carved from stone and patience thinner than Martin's ethics. Linda, chief counsel, was flipping through a thick manila envelope with a red tab. My envelope. The one marked confidential, departmental irregularity/evidence attached. She didn't look up, just said, "Sit, Alexandra. This is going to be interesting." Martin strolled in 3 minutes late, adjusting his tie like he hadn't just walked into a live wire with gasoline in his pocket. Sophie was behind him, all fake poise and that I definitely rehearsed this smile in the mirror energy. She sat across from me. Didn't need to blink. Her pupils were already dilated. Fight or flight mode. "Before we begin," Martin said, too casually, "I'd like to." Linda cut him off. "We'll start with the agenda item labeled April Shadows." Silence. I swear you could hear Sophie's throat tighten from across the room. Linda opened the folder like she was unveiling a guillotine. She started slow, contracts signed prematurely, meeting logs that didn't exist, access records to areas Sophie never should have had access to. Every time she flipped a page, I watched Martin's smirk twitch, like a mask melting one nerve at a time. Then came the audio. Martin's voice, whispery low. "Relax, you'll get the title. Just keep doing what you're doing." Sophie's response. A breathy laugh and then, "Should I leave the blazer on this time?" You could hear the board collectively recoil. One of them actually whispered, "Jesus." Linda didn't stop. She dropped the spa receipt next, Then the forged CFO transition doc with Sophie's printed copy recovered from the 10th floor communal printer tray. Thanks, janitorial logs. She then handed the board a photo of Martin's signature, time-stamped before any internal approvals. Martin finally cracked. This is absurd. None of this proves. You signed off on a fake succession plan, Linda said ice cold. You signed it and you buried it. And Sophie, you distributed it to unauthorized personnel. Sophie opened her mouth, closed it, looked at me. For the first time, no performance, just realization. Just doom. I leaned back, folded my hands, said nothing. But inside, I was dancing because I hadn't just exposed a scandal. I'd weaponized their own arrogance. Martin tried to salvage it. God, he tried. The man stood there, red-faced and sweating through his overpriced linen like he'd just run a marathon through a meat locker. It was a miscommunication, he said, voice wobbling like jello in an earthquake. That memo was exploratory. Internal brainstorming between trusted colleagues. You're twisting things. But the board wasn't buying it. Not with a paper trail longer than the Book of Revelations and a voice recording that sounded like softcore HR malpractice. Let me get this straight, said Charles, the oldest board member, who hadn't spoken in 2 years except to fire people. You greenlit a promotion before we posted the job. You privately authorized access to budgetary reports for someone still on probation. And you, he jabbed a knobby finger at Sophie, submitted a document that implies succession planning without authorization, bypassing both legal and finance. Sophie finally snapped. I didn't write that memo. I just found it in my inbox. Alexandra sent it. Linda shut her down. And you printed it and distributed it. That makes you complicit or very, very stupid. She turned to me then. First time, all meeting. Alexandra, do you have anything to add? Oh, I had volumes. I had receipts, confessions, enough dramatic irony to greenlight a Netflix limited series. But I didn't give them that. I just leaned in and said, only that I was told Sophie contributes more than I do. I figured it was time I contributed something back. That landed like a hammer to the teeth. The room froze. Sophie's mouth opened. No sound came out. Martin sank into his chair like it was a sinkhole. I saw a bead of sweat roll off his temple and vanish into the fabric of his $400 tie. Then, just as Linda started outlining the terms of their immediate suspension, the real twist slid into place. Because right then, HR Director Patel stepped in with a folded paper. His face pale, voice steady. One more thing. IT pulled this from Sophie's work laptop during the audit. He handed the paper to Linda. She read it, blinked. Read it again. Then she laughed. Actually laughed, once, sharp and brutal, and handed the paper to the board. A printed screenshot of a draft resignation letter from me. Typed, dated, time-stamped 3 weeks ago. I thought about quitting, I said before anyone asked. I'd already accepted they'd chosen her. I wrote the letter, left it in my drafts, decided I wouldn't send it. Not before I understood why. Linda raised an eyebrow. And now I smiled, slow and clean. Now I understand. The chairman closed the folder. Meeting adjourned. But this war was just getting good. By noon, Martin's nameplate was gone. Literally gone. Someone from facilities peeled it off like dead skin and tossed it into a cardboard box with his World's Best Boss mug and 3 unread books on leadership. Poetic, really? The man who once called me a dependable workhorse, now reduced to an office ghost with a box full of lies. Sophie wasn't fired. Not yet. Legal said they had to evaluate her awareness versus intent. But she'd been escorted out of the building. Not in cuffs, worse. Quietly, shamefully. No eye contact. Her desk already sealed with an IT-issued sticker that might as well have read condemned. As for me, I didn't go back to my desk. I went to the 16th floor. Glass walls, oak trim, the part of the building where people don't reheat fish in the microwave. That's where the chairman asked to meet. He was already seated when I walked in. No smile. Just that calculating look men get when they're deciding whether to crown you queen or send you to the guillotine. You engineered all of this, he said. Not a question. A statement. I shrugged. I followed the paper trail. It led where it led. You baited them. I revealed them. Silence. Then, you were willing to blow a crater in your own department. I looked him dead in the eye. Better a crater than a cancer. Another pause. The tiniest nod. We'd like to keep you on. Effective immediately, you'll report directly to me. Title: Interim VP of Strategy. Official promotion pending board vote. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside was the offer. Salary triple what I made, a seat at the table.
But I didn't sign.
Not yet. Before I accept, I said, I want one thing clear. I don't do political theater. I don't do champagne backstabs. If I ever see another Sophie get fast-tracked because of someone's zipper instead of their work ethic, I won't file a report. He leaned forward. You'll quit. No, I said. I'll burn it down again. We shook hands. I walked out of that office not just promoted, but reborn. No longer the dependable mule. No longer the woman they clapped for out of pity. From now on, they clap because I let them keep their jobs. And in the hallway, just as I passed the empty spot where Sophie's desk used to be, I noticed something strange. A white envelope, untouched, no name. Inside, a flash drive, labeled in shaky Sharpie, Martin's Insurance. Looks like the war wasn't just getting good. It was going nuclear. The flash drive wasn't encrypted. That was the first red flag. Martin was many things: lazy, smug, a serial user of per my last email, but careless? Not usually, which meant either he wanted this found or he was already running out of moves. I plugged it into a burner laptop in the privacy booth on 14, away from cameras, away from whispers. The screen blinked and a single folder appeared. /for_emergency_use_only/. Inside were 6 files. The first was a video. Grainy. Night vision green. Office camera footage, clearly taken from a private feed, not tied into our standard system. The angle was aimed straight at a glass wall. Martin's office. The timestamp? 2 weeks before Sophie's promotion. In the video, Martin, shirt half off. Sophie, hair down, blazer on the chair, her knees on the desk. It wasn't just inappropriate. It wasn't just scandalous. It was calculated. They looked directly at the camera. Smiled, like they were filming a goddamn alibi. Then it hit me, this wasn't blackmail. It was insurance against each other. They never trusted one another, knew the arrangement would end in fire. File 2 was a PDF, an old email thread between Martin and someone named J.H. Lux, private server, offshore address. Subject line: Consulting fees/quiet exit strategy. There was mention of a payment, a large one, to an account in the Caymans. File 3. An unfiled HR complaint from 2 years ago. Another name I didn't recognize, Lucinda H., accusing Martin of coercion. It was marked retracted in red. Date of retraction: 4 days after she suddenly relocated to Berlin. File 4. A screenshot of Sophie's first application to the company. The attached cover letter included a line that made my blood freeze. Martin suggested I keep this quiet for now, but I'm excited to make it official soon. Date: 4 months before we even posted the job listing. File 5. A spreadsheet of departmental promotions over the past 3 years. Every name, every date. Everyone marked with a green or red cell. Green, female, under 30. Promoted within 6 months. Red, male, over 30. Delayed or denied promotion. A pattern. A program. File 6, just a note. Typed in plain font. No sender. No metadata. If you're reading this, it means I lost. But they won't bury me alone. HR won't act without pressure. Legal won't act without leverage. Use this or destroy it. But either way, pretend you didn't know. I closed the laptop. My mouth tasted like metal. I was already in the war. But this was something else. This was a map to bodies no one knew were buried. And, the worst part? Someone else had already started digging. Tuesday, 6:14 a.m. My office door was ajar. That was the first sign. Second, my chair was warm. Someone had been here. The flash drive was gone. I'd locked it in a drawer the night before. 2-factor locks and a false bottom. Only 4 people had badge access to my floor before 7 a.m. I checked the logs. Martin's ID, deactivated. Sophie's, revoked. Janitorial crew, scanned out at 4:03. The fourth ID, J. Hernandez, legal. I recognized the initials from the offshore email, JHLux. So Martin hadn't just been bribing shadows. He had one of them working inside the company. I moved fast. Called IT. Badge logs frozen. Pulled surveillance footage. Miraculously corrupted. Of course. I knew I had maybe hours before this whole thing turned on me. Whoever JH really was, they'd now seen everything Martin stashed. Everything I knew. But I wasn't done.
Not yet.
I compiled my own dossier. Not for HR. Not for legal. For the press. And for the 3 remaining board members I trusted, women and men who still ran companies with their names on the door, not some hollow title. I sent it out at 7:03 a.m. sharp. 3 hours later, chaos broke loose. The company's PR rep resigned mid-call. 2 department heads walked out. And at 10:17 a.m., Sophie Ellis was officially terminated pending further investigation, her access revoked in real time during an impromptu Zoom call she couldn't even finish. Word is she tried to scream, defamation. Didn't get past the first syllable. And Martin? I found him outside HQ in a black town car, talking to a woman in a gray suit who didn't blink once during the entire exchange. When they saw me, they stopped talking. He smiled. But it wasn't the smile of a man who'd won. It was the smile of a man trying to look calm before the drop. By Friday, it was done. Martin had retired for personal reasons. Sophie had vanished from LinkedIn entirely. J. Hernandez? No longer with legal. Her email bounced. Internal memos cited unauthorized data breaches, and whispers of a federal audit started bleeding through Slack channels like static through a broken radio. And me? I didn't take the VP title. I turned it down. I don't want a chair at their table. I want the blueprints. So now I work from the 27th floor. No title. No office door. Just an unlisted extension and the full ear of the board. Every strategy runs through me now. Every time someone calls me dependable or safe, I just smile because they'll never know how close they came to collapse. And I'll never let them forget. I clapped, I toasted. But when the smoke cleared, I owned the match.